Hello again, this is Ed Maurina. I'm doing a series of follow-on videos to the Corona Geek Hangout number 152. In this Hangout, I talked about primarily the Facebook Graph library and how to set up, although I made some mistakes, and I'll cover that later in another video, how to set up your Facebook application so that you could use the Facebook Graph library and plugin to post directly to people's Facebook pages. But in the beginning of the show, I covered a number of topics, things that I consider to be the easier way to share. I talked about the social plugin, that is the native pop-up social, and the activity plugin. And I've already done a video talking about that on Android. I'm going to talk about these two different plugins on iOS. And I'm going to start with, in this video, using the social plugin for iOS. Now, it's very similar between the two platforms, but I think that those of you who are doing iOS only may want to see an iOS specific example, and in that case there is one available. I got it. All of the code I'm going to talk about here is provided by Corona, either through their examples or in this case through a blog post. So it's worth noting that I went in and since the show I have updated all of this code to make it work better, to be better documented, etc., etc. You can get this code if you go over to github.com, RoamingGamer, and then click on repositories or find the repositories section. Scroll down until you find Corona Geek. Click on that. At this point, you're going to see, let me just expand this a little bit. You're going to see a page that looks like this with Hangouts and some other information. Now, if you have the GitHub client installed on your device or on your machine, you can simply clone this whole repository and then synchronize it every once in a while with the client to get the latest updates. However, if you just want to grab everything at one go, you can click on Download Zip, and this will give you a zip file containing everything. Now, there's a third option. I know that folks don't want everything, usually. So click on the Hangouts, and you'll notice I have a bunch of folders here that are for the different Hangouts or for some topic that I discussed. And at the bottom of this list, you'll see a bunch of zip files. So if you want to get a specific topic or Hangout, go ahead and click on into the Hangouts folder and then locate the zip, in this case, social media, there it is. Click there and you click the raw button, and what that will do is download that zip file to your hard drive, your desktop, wherever you select, and then you can unzip it and get the contents of the social media folder or sub repository, however you want to think about it. So in here, there's a bunch of stuff. We're going to be talking about today specifically Corona resources from blog posts, iOS, and then the sharing panel. So I showed it to you on the show, and it looks something like this. However, it was in landscape mode, and I noticed later when you ran it on the device that this little bit here didn't always work. And that's my fault. I think Rob wrote this. Hopefully I'm giving the right person credit. But I didn't set up one of the files correctly. So why don't I show you the files briefly. I changed the config file so that it defaults to the layout for an iPad, which is what I have, and I'm going to be demoing it on. And then I used Zoom Stretch, which I don't normally use, but I wanted it to be very simple so it would always fit on every screen. And then again, as I said in the last video when talking about Android, if you want this to work, you want to use a social pop-up, you need to do one thing, which is you need to include a plugin section in your build settings file. And you need to specify that it is Corona provider, native pop-up, social, publisher ID equals com.coronalabs. Additionally, I didn't say this, well, it's too late now, but you'll see this in the prior video. There was a section in here for Android. Clearly you need internet access. Now, this is not related for iOS, so I could have left this blank, but I left it in case folks wanted to run this example on their Android devices. However, there is an Android example. It's a little bit different, so why don't you go to that one first? If you downloaded this after the show and you're just watching this video, please do go get an update, because I have since updated this content to make it better, behave better, and I have updated the header here to have the correct statement, have a link to the article, and within here I have put some links to the specific documentation you'll need to understand how this works. Having said that, let me take you and show you how to find the right documentation. Pardon me. So if you're confused, you're trying to figure something out, you're using a function, you're not quite sure how it works, the best place to go is to the daily APIs. So Corona Lab documentation, docs.coronalab.com, daily API. This is my preferred location instead of any of the other options. Corona provides basically documentation links for every release, and for, I believe, the current public release. That's not the greatest way to go. Go to the latest one, keep yourself up to date when you're developing, and I think that you'll find that's the best way to approach development. Anyways, having gotten to the APIs page, click on the plugins link, and we're going to be looking at the social pop-up. So scroll down to the social section and social pop-up. And I said this on my last video, but I want to say that the folks at Corona are doing the right thing with documentation. You'll get in here and say, well, this is kind of sparse. I really am looking for the bit about native show pop-up. And you may say, well, if I click this, this will be the generic description. It is not. It's the description that is specific to the social plugin. So in other words, whoever set up this documentation made it so that, assuming you follow the plugins path, you come down here to social pop-up, you click on this, it will be the specific one specific to that plugin. For example, let me just demonstrate this as being, we're going to talk about the activity pop-up in the next video. So that also uses the pop-up. So let's do that, native show pop-up. And now we have the activity documentation. So specific to the plugin, very useful. All right, so having said that, in the Hangout, I could only show it to you in the simulator and I couldn't run it. I didn't have my computer set up right, but I do now. I'm so happy. And I have installed Facebook, Twitter. So you have to have the Facebook app installed. You have to have the Twitter app installed. That is, if you're hoping for this to work and for your users to be able to use these things, they have to be installed. In addition, the email client has to be installed. So the user has to, at some point, have written an email from their device, and at which point they would have had to go through a bunch of steps to set up the email client. Now, I'm telling you all this because if you choose to do the sharing panel first and you run that, you may find that it doesn't work because you don't have these apps installed. If you don't want to bother to install them, go run the activity pop-up example instead. I'll give you a little hint. I like it better because if it doesn't find the app, it prompts. It prompts you to install the application, which is just brilliant. So, but we're doing a sharing panel, so I'm showing you a reflection of my iPad. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on sharing panel and open that up. So you can see it looks very similar. And let's just click on Facebook. All right, so Facebook, as you can see, it's the same deal as in my previous video for Android. No filled in message, even though I provided one in the code. That's against the rules. You can put a URL in and you can put multiple images in. After that, the user has to fill in their own details and submit it, which I'm not going to do. Okay, so Twitter. Twitter allows you to put in some text. No URL, interestingly, although I supplied one, the URL is not put in. And it looks like a single image. Yeah, I'm going to let you experiment with this. Right now, the way the code is set up, it tries to upload two images. This icon and another icon, and this is the first one listed, and it looks like it only takes the first one listed. Let's see, email. Now this didn't work for me the first time. In fact, it didn't work until after I ran activity, and activity prompted me to install an email client, in which time I did it. Actually, it let me choose from a variety of email handlers, and then I chose one. And after that, I came back to this app, and lo and behold, it now works. So, as you can see, you can post some text, you can post a bunch of images, and I probably didn't set it up right, but I'm almost sure that you can specify the two. and the from and the subject and stuff like that. So it's definitely worth looking at the documentation, running this example, and playing with the code to see if you can take this a little bit further. All right, what else? Let's go ahead and cancel that if I can click properly. Delete it. Please delete it. Okay, I can tell you already that the messaging client's not going to work. SMS. This is not a phone. I don't have SMS. And that is it. Okay, so I think that's it for this video. I just wanted to show you folks that this is in fact working. It's improved, added to. Please take it, experiment with it, read the documentation. Again, experiment away, and I think that you're going to find that this may be a good solution. Having said that, I'm going to do a video in just a moment on my favorite iOS solution so far that does not include using the graph library. So in other words, all the heavy lifting is done by Corona, and you just have to do a little bit of coding, and I feel like it's the best of all worlds for iOS. Unfortunately, Android, I think, yeah, well, I kind of like the Android sharing solution, so that's all right too. All right, I'm talking enough here. Thanks a lot for watching, and one more video coming up.